welcome along to this edition of The Final Whistle on theirmedia.tv. The usual email, info@theirmedia, for your comments. And we have a text line as well now, 083 300 2695. Press the red button on the right-hand side, subscribe to our panel. Usually the screen is full, but we decided just to use the cream of the crop tonight for this edition of The Final Whistle. But we're telling lies, as you can see. Good evening, Joe.
Evening, Pat. How are you?
We have one member working. We have another member who, congratulations, Anna Moore. I was saying, Joe, before we came on here, she's been appointed manager of the Irish Youth boxing team, and they're preparing now for the European Championships in Bulgaria. But we'll hook up with Anna in the middle of that as well on the show. Well done, Anna, with that. So Anna has a legitimate reason, and Chris is working tonight, so he'll be missed. But Derwin may come in. He said he may come in. He said he will come in. He might be late. Of course, Joe, the soccer over the weekend here on this side of the world, we had no Premiership or Championship matches. We just had the first, second division in Cross Channel and the National League. And Grimsby beat the Daggers 2-1.
I saw that, yeah.
And they're back up
that's
now.
Good result for them.
Yeah, they're back up to the playoff spots. I was doing the match in my head, a quick calculation, as I have nothing to do on a Sunday. Only go through the papers, but there's only 3 more teams below Grimsby that can pass them out, to be negative about it, provided they keep the results, either winning or draw, keep the points coming in. I think they should be all right to make at least the playoffs, which would be great to see, not because, but you have a draw for them, teams like that, And
yeah, well, fingers crossed. I'm going to be going back there. We have a reunion coming up, but that was put off because of COVID.
Yes.
For our 79-80 third division championship team, and also for our 71 fourth division championship team. So they're going to combine both of them this time to get them in, because both of them obviously had to be postponed. So that's going to be happening in May. And they're actually playing. We have their reunion dinner on the Friday night, and the team is playing on the Saturday. So we'll be able to get to Bundle Park and watch the game.
Oh,
so I'm excited.
And how long are you staying over there for?
I'm only staying for 4 or 5 days.
Oh,
so
good.
Just a quick in and out, because I'll be coming home to Ireland in July, because our daughter is getting married. So I'll be home for that in mid-July.
That's a good reason.
Yes.
But we hadn't, so as a result then we had international soccer games over the weekend. Wales had a good win. Gareth Bale did the business there, as you will probably know, with Wales, and he got a very unfair hammering in the Spanish press. I mean, they're very unforgiving for a player who's given loyal service to Real Madrid, And
I find that very strange. Gareth Bale, when they played Liverpool in the Champions League final, nearly beat Liverpool on his own with the 2 goals he scored. When they played Atleti in the final of the Champions League, he scores the equaliser in the last minute of the game, practically. And he's done so much for the club, but for some reason, right from the start, they never took to him. And I recall reading that he refused to learn to speak Spanish, and that was one of the reasons that they took a dislike to him. But his production, trophy-wise, over there has been unbelievable.
It's been fantastic. He's been a fantastic servant of the club. He's 32. He's a free agent, as you know, in the summer. In May, I think, at the end of May, he's a free agent, and he has. There's speculation, that he could join Cardiff if they qualify for the World Cup, because you can understand why he would join Cardiff City, keep playing football with no messing and no rubbish around him, be nice and relaxed, keep himself fit for Wales and for the World Cup that'll be coming up if Wales qualify. So I mean, that could be a reality for him, a better option than where he is,
Oh yeah, the big thing with him is going to be, money-wise, how is anybody going to afford him? I was reading the other day that Eden Hazard now has said the same thing that Gareth Bale said last week. He said he's going to see his contract out. He's not leaving Madrid, and they don't like him either, and they don't want him there, the fans and the papers. So that's going to be another interesting one.
It's a shame, really, because I mean they're not bad players. Eden Hazard is a world-class player. I mean, you don't lose that status because everybody has a dip in form, Joe. I don't have to tell you that. Everybody has. You go down, but you still have the ability to rise above all that kind of mediocrity and succeed. Qatar beat them. I'm keeping an eye on Qatar because World Cup is there, isn't it? Qatar beat Bulgaria 2-1. But I think the standout fixture, if you're reading it, was North Macedonia beating Italy 1-0. Now, obviously, congratulations to North Macedonia, but the Italians are out of the World Cup now, and I suppose they were an aging team. We knew that from the European Championships. When they won the European Championships, they were an aging team. They played well in patches in the European Championships, if you remember, but still they were there for the taking, so to speak, as we alluded to on the show as well. But yet they had the know-how and the knowledge and the skill to get out tight situations. They didn't score many goals, They didn't have any goal machine up front. So things like that will take effect on a team, like if you're not scoring freely, And I think that their performance against North Macedonia, I saw highlights of it. You can't judge by the highlights. They're poor, really. I think they're a tired team now. They need a new manager, clear out, in my opinion. I know you probably didn't see. We were reading about it. So it's a huge shock to the country.
Well, it is a huge shock to them. Any time that they don't make it to a World Cup, it's like it's the end of the country. It's the end of the world for it. But I was reading. I followed up the press about it and what have you, and it's going back to the age old excuse that too many managers are bringing in foreign players and not concentrating on Italian players and developing Italian players. And that's the excuse that they're throwing out there now. It always happens, I mean, they said the same thing about England. There's so many foreign players in England. It was the same in Germany there for a while. There was a lot of foreign players in Germany. Spain was the same, and they kind of they went a different way about developing their own players, the homegrown players. But it is, I mean, it's a huge shock to the system for them when they don't qualify. It's a huge shock for everybody, really. I thought that they would have. I think the Portugal game, but then Portugal and Spain or Italy are two similar teams in that they're getting older.
Yeah, the Portuguese team as well. Yeah, they would have a lot of them at the wrong side of 30, as they say.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
so it'll be interesting to see North Macedonia. So now it's North Macedonia and Portugal will play.
Yeah, and the Netherlands beat Denmark, I think, 4-2. Well, there's very little talk about the Netherlands. I know they're a young emerging team. We don't want to be disparaging, but they're a good team, and I think that they'd be dark horses if they get really their act together. I don't know. Well, a few times I saw them, I thought they were good.
Yeah, I mean they've got some good players. They've got some really good players. But again, I just reading it again this morning. Van Dijk has come out and said that he doesn't like playing in a back three. He prefers playing in a back four like he does at Liverpool and what have you. And I mean, I can understand that because a lot of centre backs do not like coming out of the middle and having to play wide and get wide. It's a very uncomfortable place for them to be. Yeah. But then Van Gaal hits back at him and says the manager decides the tactics, not the players. The Dutch always just seem to find a way to shoot themselves in the foot. They
do self-destruct.
Yeah, the only time they didn't do it was when they won the Euros that time, when they had Van Basten and Rijkaard and
They're fabulous.
Gull and those guys.
Yeah, a great team.
Yeah.
That was fabulous. They always, from time to time, and of course, the 2 World Cup finals are in 1974, 1978. I mean, they were just superb,
Yes, they were.
Those 2 soccer teams that they produced. But yeah, total football, they kind of phrase, wasn't it? Total football.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, the thing with that, there was a guy called Vic Buckingham. He was a player and manager in England, and he was one of the guys that started off that whole Ajax academy with Neskins and with Cruyff and all those guys, and he was the one that brought total football. He was doing that at Chelsea, but he got sacked, and he went over there and he started over there. There were a lot of really top class. Barry Hughes was another one. Went over to Holland, was very successful at Sparta. So yeah. So
now Canada qualified for the World Cup for the first time since 1986. You probably heard that over there.
Yeah.
And the manager's from Durham, County Durham, John Herdman, their manager, John Herdman.
Yeah.
He used to manage the New Zealand ladies one time, wasn't it? New Zealand ladies soccer team, I think, was it? Forget.
I don't know.
I forget. But anyway, I think it's nice to see countries. Actually, soccer, they were saying soccer is becoming very, very popular, not because they qualified. Again, in Canada, there seems to be an upsurge or a renewed interest in it, And now with them qualifying for the World Cup, that'll give it a huge lift, I dare say, because with all the razzmatazz about it,
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure it will. Back in what year was it? When Canada qualified the last time? What was it? 1986. 86. And actually, some of my teammates here in Tacoma were on that team. And actually, a lot of the guys that were a part of that team all played indoor, and they played outdoor in the summertime up in Canada. And I went up to Canada a couple of summers to play up there also. So the game has always been popular. It's just not being, obviously ice hockey is the biggest sport there. Yeah. But it is, you've got the professional teams now. You've got the Whitecaps up in Vancouver. You've got over in Montreal, you have the Impact. In Toronto, you've got a team. So all their teams are pretty competitive.
That's good. And John Edmonton, John Hedman, the manager, I was reading a bit about it. He was saying, he said they had to play Haiti in 37 degrees of heat, where whatever surface they were playing on, the boots are beginning to stick to the surface. So many obstacles he had to overcome. But then when he didn't say when they get a home match, they decided to bring them to Edmonton, where it was minus 6 or 7 degrees, to balance out the advantage.
Oh yeah. Well, when Tony Waiters was the manager of the Canadian national team and they played Mexico, they'd play him. They'd take him to St. John's, Newfoundland, and have him play up there.
So go away.
Yeah, that's what he used to take him. And it was. I just find that ironic that you're talking about that with them having to play in the heat. Well, the US brought whoever it was. I'm not sure it was Haiti or whoever it was to play up here, and they played in Minneapolis. And it was like minus 29 or something like that. So they were complaining about that, So,
you'll always get, of course,
you always get it.
With that group, they're so scattered. They have to try and include everybody. I can understand where FIFA are coming from. And there will be anomalies. You can't get everybody playing in the same continent because they might never get a chance to qualify ever for a World Cup. So you have to try and put teams of equal parity or equal standards together so they'll have a reasonable competition. But anyway, well done to Canada. Canada have qualified for the World Cup. I like the Canadians myself. They have a nice attitude, and the Canadian women's got third place in the last 2 World Cups. They got the bronze medal, as so to speak, in the last 2 World Cups. So I mean, the women are blazing a trail. Of course, they're doing it in America as well, Joe, as we saw.
Yeah.
But
yeah, did you see that one where the US won and they're celebrating and they have a banner qualified for the World Cup, and then they had to rip it down because they realized that they hadn't qualified. They have one more game to go. No, they'd have to lose that game 6-0 for them not to qualify.
Yeah. I know, as you said, they can still lose the game, but provided it's not a big loss,
Yeah.
Of course, locally, just to fill you in, Pike Rovers are giant tops now with Fairview. They both won, and Ballinanty are just behind them in the local league here. And then we got Treaty United, just as we're on soccer, had a very good win Friday night against a very fancied Waterford United in our first division. So that was a surprise, because I was going to ask you as well, because they got a thumping the week before from Cork City, 4-0, and it could have been 12-0. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
At home, and now they weren't expected to win the match at home, but they were expected to give a good account of themselves, and yet they got hockeyed. And then how do you, Joe? You've been on many teams, and you might get. It's one of those things where you go to kick the ball to the left and it goes to the right, no matter how your best efforts are. There's one of those games where every player seems to be not able to control the ball for what I know. I think there are times like that, and when you go back to the dressing room after losing 5 or 6-0, and next week you win 3-0, it's down to the players themselves, obviously, their mindset and all. But is there an attitude? We're going out here, we're not going to beat these guys. You can't have that attitude. You must have an positive attitude that it's only 11 against 11 when it comes down to it.
Yeah.
Each player does their job to the best of their ability, and they still lose. That's fine,
Yeah, and I mean, that's the thing with it. We've all been there where, it's just one of those days that you can't do anything right. Yeah. Anything that you do just goes against you and what have you. And, usually that's the time when the manager really earns his keep, I think, at a time like that. When you're down, and then they lift you back up and get you ready for the next game. And the attitude is, it's only one game, and so you've just got to brush that aside and move on. And other times it can be a little bit more than that. I remember we played Darlington at Grimsby a number of years ago in the 4th division, and we were winning 6-0 at half time. And they were going out looking for the record books to see what the record score for a game was at that time. Well, in the second half, Darlington came out and won 2-1. The game ended up 7-2. But the manager, at half time said to him, he said, guys, it's as simple as this. You're playing for your jobs now. And that's a heck of a motivator for you to
cheapers, it
come
is.
back.
It is. And how many times have we seen teams dead and buried at half time? They all go back to Liverpool in the European Cup, but there have been many more as well, where.
Oh yeah. Well, look at the game yesterday. Wrexham and Dover, was it?
That's
Dover
right.
Dover were 2-0 up, and then Wrexham come back, make it 2-0. Then they go 4-2 down. Yeah. And then it's 4-4, and then it's 5-5, and they end up winning 6-5.
That's right. Poor old Dover at the bottom, I think they're. I meant to ask you, I didn't look it up now. I know what you're doing at. In the National League, the teams where do you be relegated to? Are you relegated from the National League?
Yes. Yeah. there's a, I think that there's
A north and south.
there's a north and south,
Is
and
that where
that's
you
the
go?
way. Yeah, and that's the way it works, I believe.
All right.
So yeah, so I think the way it works is the two top teams play each other, or whatever playoff
Yeah.
system they have,
Yeah,
and they would come up, and then the one team would go down, and
I know.
they'd organize it from there.
I suppose it would be good for Grimsby if they got back into was it Division 2, is it? It's called
Yeah,
League 2.
League Two.
If they got back in, it might give it will give the club a fillip anyway, no matter club back in again. There's a different way of looking at clubs then, isn't there, when they get back up there like that from the National League, I know Hartlepool came up last year. They're struggling a bit, but they'll probably stay up. I don't know. They probably will,
Yeah, it's it's a tough league to stay in now. I mean, if you look at, you only have to look at the National League and see you've got the likes of Grimsby, you've got Chesterfield, I think, Wrexham, or Halifax down there.
Yeah, Notts County.
Notts County, one of the oldest clubs in the football league, founding members.
Barnet.
Yeah.
So,
it's a hard league to get out of.
It is.
When there's only two teams coming up out of it, it's very difficult.
There's 44 matches, I think. Is it 44? They have 9 more games to go. I think off the top of my head, they have 35 played. That's Grimsby. So 9 more games to go. Which is 44 matches is a nice little. They've only 38 in the Premiership. Well, league matches now we're talking about, obviously. There's cups and all of that, The final whistles of the program here on theirmedia.tv. Press the red button on the right hand side to subscribe to our panel. And Joe Waters is he looks like my special guest tonight, but Joe, fair play to you. The furthest person away from the show. And his friend there to mind him as well, Rua. Rua is the name of the dog. That's the name of the dog. So I won't tell you what that means. You can look it up yourselves. Anyway, of course, we had the golf and seen the golf over the weekend with the match play over the weekend, which Scheffler, a nice each way bet for the Masters. Some golfing expert told me here in Shannon. Scheffler, he won the world match play. He beat Kisner, but our own Seamus Powell got into the quarterfinals, which allowed Seamus Powell consequently qualified for the Masters for the very first time, which is a big thing, when you think about it, That's
it's huge.
Oh, it's a huge thing, and he won for the quarterfinals. He won $330,000 $330,000, which is not a bad payday either.
No, it's not. And I see that Tiger Woods is apparently playing down in Florida right now, trying to get ready for the Masters.
Apparently now there's some excitement. He's entered, and he's left his name entered in the Masters, which is a big thing because there's some dates you have to give an indication because there's a big rigmarole thing about it. But really, I hope he doesn't pull out at the last minute because that's terrible. I hope he stays in the field. I hope he's able to play it, for the want of a better description. I hope he is, because I don't know. Woods himself, well, he's an icon, an icon of the golf era, and he's been fantastic, been a fantastic golfer. And what's the word? Do you think someone said that he adds between 50 and 100 million to the viewing figures when he plays? That's astonishing. That's astonishing.
It is. It is. It's amazing.
No wonder they pay him to. No wonder you pay him to appear at your tournament.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I suppose it's like Ronnie O'Sullivan in snooker. Once his name is down in the entry form for the thing, you buy your ticket. And a couple of years ago in the Scottish Masters, he had to withdraw. I think he wasn't well or something on one of his leg. I think, I forget now, but he was genuinely injured, and he withdrew at the last minute. And 34% of the tickets were returned.
Oh wow!
you can imagine it's a financial implication as well, you know. But
Oh yeah.
Formula One, our friends, I don't see any Formula One. Verstappen won yesterday. He won the Formula One with the two Ferraris, second and third. And our friend Hamilton, Lewis, only came in 10th, but he scored a point, but he came in 10th. That's Lewis Hamilton. I think the car is the problem now, you know, the Mercedes, the two cars, I think they're the problem this year. I can't see him doing much. I think the rugby then, of course, Joe, over the weekend, the Ladies Six Nations, I don't even get to see it. I saw some of it Friday night. Ireland are beaten by Wales, of course, at home, which was disappointing. 27-9, but France and England are huge. They're huge women playing it. They're big, strong. France and England are really probably the two women rugby teams that would put it up to the All Blacks and Australian people like that, you know, when it comes to the World Cup. But the rest of them, I'm afraid, Scotland and Wales and Italy and Ireland are a good bit behind in the development of the game, you know. They're a good bit behind. But I mean, they played well, as well as they could be, but really, when someone is that far ahead of you, yeah, it's just like England. England will always beat Ireland in soccer, or should, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean, look at the size of the country, 66 million, and look at the development of the game there, and look across here, when the winners of our premier title here don't get enough money to pay 5 or 6 of the players on the team. That's the prize money for winning the league in Ireland. When you contrast that across water, you know, I dare say. That's why people go across if they're any good. People say, well, why are you playing in the second division or the first division in Britain? You're earning a living there. You're earning a decent living, you know. You won't get that in Ireland, you know. I know we're a small country, but we shouldn't need that, but we should develop the thing. Goes to show, like, I remember a couple of years back, there was a team from, was it Finland or Sweden? I forget their names. They were the equivalent of ours, and they got into the European Champions League 3 or 4 years running, and it made the club, the income and the finances made the club to build it up to an acceptable world level. So it can be done with determination, with a few bob. Anyway.
And it takes a bit of luck, but I mean, you know, you were talking there earlier about where Grimsby are which is essentially non-league. I mean, those guys are making probably about $1,000 a week, you know, which is a decent amount of money, you know. So, and then there's other teams like Wrexham and the richer clubs like Chesterfield. They're making $2,000 and $3,000 a week, some of them.
Yeah,
you know. So you wonder. I mean, I was reading an article there a couple of years ago about a guy that was playing for I think Derry City or something like that, and he has to take a half day off of work to go to get to the game to play, and then they have to travel back through the night, and he gets back at like 6 o'clock in the morning to go to his job at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
you know, I mean, that's love and dedication right there, and hoping that you're going to get something maybe like that across there, because I mean they're able to afford to pay that.
There are a few clubs in League of Ireland, Shamrock Rovers, Dundalk, who you'd call professional, I suppose, to want a better word, where most of their first team are professionals. They don't do anything else, you know, and still they struggle as well. But I mean, there's the facilities as well have improved, but there needs to be investment if they're serious. It's as simple as that, you know. That's what the rugby union did eventually when they broke up the contracts for professional players into the 4 provinces, you know, Ulster, Connacht, Leinster and Munster, and they were contracted players. Then they were able to concentrate fully on their game, and there were tier 1 players who played the internationals. And there was academies in each of them built up. So you can see it took a while, but I mean, they're up there with the big boys, you know, really, when you think about it, you know, they can hold their own with most teams in rugby. So, I mean, it can be done but it's hard work. As we're talking about rugby, Ronan O'Gara's team had a great win over the weekend. La Rochelle, they're third in the top 14 now. I keep an eye on that myself because of him. I think he'll be a future coach as well. So they're good old Ronan. He said he'll see his contract out, even though we're trying to bring him over to manage Munster, as you know. There was really, really strong overtures made, but he had signed the contract with La Rochelle, and he said, I will see my contract out. I wouldn't be a person for breaking it or anything like that, even though he's probably offered a lot more money to come to Munster, but I don't know that for a fact. But I admire someone like that, because his kids were in school there, his wife was there, and the whole lot. So anyway, there's a lot more things than money in life, I suppose, when you think about it, The final whistle is the program. On their media.tv, tell all your friends about us, and press the red button on the right hand side to subscribe to our channel. Joe Waters is with me tonight. The rest of them, we'll have to have a serious look at the contracts after the show, Joe. You can go through them there. The rest of the people who are talking about contracts. We'll have to see all the small fine print. But
Yeah.
There's a discussion there in our own media over the weekend. Another prominent hurler came out about his gambling addiction, in Ireland. And, I wasn't surprised myself because it was known, it was known, it was spoken about before the poor man. But I mean, probably I can't think of anything worse. Well, I can, but I have a gambling addiction. Now, you can have an alcohol addiction, Joe, as you know, and you can go to the pub and fall down drunk, and that's the end of it. You come home, right, or you're brought home. You can gamble away every single thing in the privacy of your own couch online in the space of a day. And I think the link between sport, particularly soccer, and those gambling companies and online gambling companies and all, I think it's time that link should be broken, really. I don't know what it's like over in the States, how our gambling companies involved in sport at a high level. I don't know, Joe, what the story is there,
No, I mean, there's no, not, you look at Premiership teams and probably a third of them to half of them have got some kind of gambling sponsor on their shirts. Over here, it's not allowed. It was actually a guy a few weeks ago was suspended for a year, a player from, I think, the Minnesota Vikings. He had bet on his own team, and even though he lost, he was suspended for a year. He had I think it was $1,500 bet on his team. It cost him $12 million or something for his suspension.
Jesus.
Yeah. And the most famous one that you have here is Pete Rose, who is a legend in baseball for the Reds, Cincinnati Reds. And he can't get in the Hall of Fame because he was suspended for gambling. So they're pretty serious now. You can go to a casino and you can put a bet on at a casino, but that's it. It's not like, at home or in England. I know from experience when we'd finished training and when we became young professionals, we'd finish training we'd be home at 1 o'clock, have our lunch, and then half the guys in the digs would head down to the bookie shop and spend the afternoon in the bookie shop. That's what they did because there wasn't anything else to do.
That's true.
And
That's true.
Yeah, and I've heard so many stories of young Irish lads that have gone over there, and young lads themselves that have gone over there, Scottish lads that came down. I remember one player we had, he got engaged. He was probably 19 years of age, whatever he was at the time. And on Thursday back then, we used to get paid. So everyone is guys are straight down to the bookie shop. Well, he'd be going to his fiance's house for dinner that night, and he would have to borrow money off of some of the guys so he could give the money to his fiance towards the wedding.
Jesus.
Yeah, that's how it was. And I've seen it. I've seen it firsthand. I mean, I've seen it with full-time players, with players that you'd never think about it, and they just, card schools get to be ridiculous. In fact, numerous clubs have stopped card schools because guys were losing so much money.
Yeah, that's right. And you, of course, the faults I did it myself when I was in the army. We got paid on a Friday, and loads of lads were gamblers. We were single, so it didn't matter to us because we had our bed and we had our food paid for and all that. Didn't matter to me as a single person if I lost all my wage on a Friday because I had all my food and everything for the week. Do you understand? I only myself. But if you're married with a few kids, and there was two of them, they were just so bad. I mean, I used to feel sorry in one way. I didn't play cards that much. I played poker a bit with them. I see them. It's not that I had more sense than they had, but can they not see that they're not going to win anything here? They're not going to win. People are going to keep seeing that they had their last pound taken off of them. Just shocking. It's an insidious thing. They have a lot of connections between gambling, and of course, where you find a bookie shop, there's a pub beside it usually, isn't there?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Always.
Just to cheer you up altogether.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know it full well because up in in Limerick, there's beside the jail, there's Jerry O'Dee's, and across the street it used to be Skelly's bookies. So.
Well, right beside Jerry O'Dee's now, there's your curry house, and then second next door is the bookies. So you have Jerry's, you have your curry then, and collect your winning bets then, and you're flying it.
Yeah, I learned very early that was that to me was a mug's game, and I learned it from my father because my father would only back favourites, but it would always be on the accumulator.
Yes.
So he'd do probably 10 bets, but it wouldn't cost him more than 50 pence or a pound. Yeah. Because he wasn't a big gambler, but he loved reading the paper. He loved reading the form and all that kind of stuff. And for me, I looked at it and I went, you know what? That's just throwing your money away. I don't see any. And no, don't get me wrong. I would bet on the Grand National or the big races, the Oaks or the Derby or something like that.
Everybody has a flutter on the Grand Nationals going up the week after next or 2 weeks time, whenever it is on. But also like that, by that, with the 5 horses and you do 10 doubles and 10 trebles, you said to be about, I don't know, £1.50 or something like that. That's all. Just you're watching television and you're relaxing and you watch the race and you say, there's my fella there. So it's no big deal to them. But that's not what we were talking about, as you know yourself.
Right.
It's the appalling. Like I see all the young. I can't understand the young girls and young boys. What struck me was I get the bus in and out of Shannon because it's much easier. I use public transport all. Well, it's free for me. So, but apart from that, it's less hassle. You don't have to worry about parking or anything. When you come in, just go where you're going, and that's it. But the amount of young people who have all the apps of Paddy Power and Ladbrokes on their phones, they have accounts.
Yeah.
And I was saying to myself, what are they doing with their life? They'll never have money. They will. And I said to them, you will never have money if you gamble on the horses. You'll never make money. And they were saying, what about, you're talking about an exception. Maybe like a Barney Curley, once in a generation, right? And look at all the money he had to borrow and invest. And when he had all his debts paid, does anybody ask him how much he had left over or anything like that? So you'll never make money going into bookies. Never.
Well, the old one used to be, you've never seen a poor bookie.
No.
That's it. they're not in it to lose money. They do very nicely out of it.
We'll have to maybe visit this. Maybe I might get might get a guest on over the summer talking about this when all the sporting, when the cut and thrust of all the big competitions die down, and we'll have more time space on the program to talk about this. We might take one or two people on the show. It'd be nice to cover it, for people who needs to be reminded now and again. Of course, Josh Warrington knocked out Kike Martinez over the weekend in the featherweight, IBF featherweight world title. He knocked him out, the veteran, and it was a bloody fight for anybody who didn't see it. It wasn't a very nice fight. I think he was gone before he ever got into the ring. The Kike Martinez, that is. So what are we to look forward to now, Joe, next weekend? To be back in the cut and thrust of the Premiership, I presume. What about the soccer season over there? Is that finished or is it still going?
No, they've actually the Sounders are playing New York City in the semi-final of the Champions League, the equivalent of the Champions League over here. Yeah, so that's, I think this week they're playing. So that's going, and then they do that to start off with, and then they'll roll into their season from there.
Oh, I see. It's summer soccer.
Yeah.
Good. And is it expensive to go to now? I know we spoke about the NFL games, which are outrageous, but is it expensive to go to soccer matches?
Well, I mean, you still have all the same costs once you get in there. I don't think it's as much as it is for an NFL game, but the concessions are still the same price when you get in there. I think the tickets themselves are cheaper, and I'd have to look at it because every time I've been there, I got a complimentary ticket, so I've never had to pay to go there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I would imagine that it's probably the cheapest seat, maybe probably $40.
Yeah, that's what's that, 35 quid or something, 25 euros. Yeah. €5. Yeah, that's well, that'll be about the average in professional sport anyway,
Yeah.
So it's within, but just on a local domestic thing, Joe, there's huge reports about the cost of petrol and diesel in the States. Is it as bad as it is? I know it's not slightly off term, but people must travel to matches as well. Is it around $6?
Well, in our area here, and we're one of the highest because we have a pretty hefty tax on gas in our state.
Yeah.
So we're paying right now. I saw it at the pump yesterday. It's like $4.79, $4.89, depending on what grade you get. So
it's near $5.
Yeah, but that's for a gallon. So I know that you do it in liters at home, right?
Yeah. It's more or less the same price in liters. I'm just off the top of my head, quick calculation. Yeah, it's very expensive. The cost of, do you notice the cost of everything has gone up?
Oh yeah. I mean, we're Sue and I, my wife, are just talking about it. We something that would have cost you probably pre-pandemic, that would have cost you and pre the war, whatever it is, would cost you like $11 or $12 is now 16, 17, 18. And that's just for lunch going out. It's unfortunate the way it is, people everywhere are paying the extra. So it's no wonder it's going up. The thing is that, I liken it back to the time when they had the gas, the petrol shortages in England back when the miners went on strike and brought down the Ted Heath government and what have you. And the cost of petrol went through the roof. And back in those days, you could get a bag of chips for 15 pence. and because of the petrol strike, it went up to 50 pence a bag of chips. And then fish and chips became £1.50, when normally they'd be probably about 50 pence. And of course, once the petrol was back online again, the prices never went back down.
That's well, they never do, as we both know.
They never do.
Never
do.
You'll be looking forward, and people will be making speeches. Say, look, when this is finished, when this is settled and the agreement is settled, we'll be back to normal. Oh no, you of course you'll be back to normal, but at the prices you are at now, they never come down. But we touched on that because of travelling expenses. There's the GA players who are amateurs, but they're in conflict with GA because through their GPA, the Gaelic Players Association, about their mileage allowances was cut down during the pandemic, and they want to brought back up now because it's back to normal. They're back to 3 sessions a week and all of that. So they're not cooperating with the media after all these matches now as well. You know, there's no interview. So they're hopefully it'll be sorted out. You know, these things are generally because championship season will be in full flow in another 3 weeks, and so I think it'll be sorted out before then. You know, because there'll be a lot of revenue lost if it isn't. You know, and a lot of players going. Anyway, all your information. The Limerick Gaelic footballers got promotion again. They got up to the Division 2, which is a huge fillip for the county. For Limerick. So
they'll be playing Dublin next year then.
They will, and my own county of Cork as well as in that division, and Kildare is in that division as well. So I mean, it'll be a hot division to get out of. You know, never mind that. Yeah. But the important thing for Limerick getting up to Division 2 is the rules have changed, whereby it's only like in Cork's case now. If they had lost yesterday to Offaly, they wouldn't have been in the Sam Maguire Cup. There's the Tarleton Cup is sort of Divisions 3 and 4. So there's a second tier now. They broke it into a second tier. So the only way teams like Limerick and lower tier teams like that would have a chance of getting into the Sam is if they met a team like Kerry and they'd have to beat them, which is in football, which is a tall order, you know. So except they're in Division 2, they're into the last 16 of the Sam Maguire. That's the way they're doing it this year. For the next 2 years as an experiment. I think to raise standards, really, you know, get everybody focused and thing. I don't know. Hopefully it'll work out all right, Joe. Anyway, it's been a blast again, Joe. And he's gone. Is he gone away?
Who's that, Rua?
He's gone away. He's heard enough. He's heard enough. I'm out of here. Anyway, Joe, for this edition of The Final Whistle, until we meet again next Monday, we'll have a full crew back then because we'll have to get the whip out. We can't have this, you know. Can't just carry on. But thank you for your time, Joe. It's been great chatting again. And until we meet again, Joe, take care and God bless.
God bless, Pat. Take care. Bye.
Bye.